Hello, friends. Happy birthday, USA. Today is our nation's 244th birthday. God bless America and the land of the free. And so today I want to read you A Day in the Nation's Capital written by Charlotte Pence and illustrated by Karen Pence. And Karen Pence is Vice President Mike Pence's wife. She's our second lady. And so I had the blessing of visiting Washington, D.C. 3 times. And 2 of those times was during my birthday, which is in April, early April. And we got to see the cherry blossoms, which are absolutely gorgeous. So if you've never been, I pray that you will be able to go, you and your family. Okay, so A Day in the Nation's Capital. This book is dedicated to the men and women who serve our nation in uniform, past and present, and to their families who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Hi there. Have we met? If not, I'm Marlo Brundu Pence. I live in Washington, D.C. with my grandma and grandpa. You might know them as the Vice President and Second Lady. There are lots of events here at my home, the Naval Observatory. Today, we have school children visiting from all over the country. Grandma used to be a teacher, so she leads them in the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you say it with us? Let's say it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With one ear raised, I listen to the words of the pledge and I feel a little confused. What do liberty and justice mean? How are one nation under God? Grandma says the Pledge of Allegiance reminds us of all things that make America special. Justice means treating everyone fairly. And liberty is all about freedom. One of our freedoms is religious freedom, says Grandma, which is why a lot of people came to America. I hop to the window and look at the National Cathedral down the street. This is one of the symbols in Washington that stands for religious freedom. And yes, it is absolutely gorgeous. Grandma says there are more places in our nation's capital where we can learn what the pledge means. Let's hop around and find them. One of the ways we exercise our freedom is by voting for our elected leaders. The Pledge of Allegiance says the United States is a republic, which means that we get to choose our leaders, who our leaders are. Look, I can see the Capitol dome. That is beautiful. In this country, we all have to obey the laws, but we are also allowed to have our own opinions about important things. And a place where this right is protected is the Supreme Court. This is a place that is in charge of upholding justice and making sure every American citizen is treated fairly, no matter how rich or poor, young or old you are. Can you guess how many Supreme Court justices there are? We can also learn about important issues and form our own opinions by reading. When we read about famous people and events from history, we learn important lessons like how to treat everyone fairly. A good place to read is at the Library of Congress, which has thousands of books. It's the biggest library in the world. And yes, it's gorgeous too. I even found my first book here. We can also learn a lot about our country by looking at historical documents. Some of those are found in the National Archives, including the U.S. Constitution, written more than 200 years ago. And it's super impressive to see that. They have dim lights when you go in to protect it. In just 4 pages, the Constitution spelled out exactly how our country would be run and how our rights would be protected. We can see it up close under this glass case. Oh, look, I can see the White House down the street. That's where the President of the United States lives, which is the highest elected position in our nation. But the President isn't a king like in other countries. We get to choose our president every 4 years, and we're going to choose one this year. Let's wave hello. Everybody wave hello to the White House. Have you been to the White House before? I got to go twice and tour the White House. Beautiful and very historical. We can celebrate our freedom in lots of ways, including the arts. Plays and concerts are a great way to discover new points of view, and one of the best places to see a play or concert is at the Kennedy Center. Shh! I think the curtain is about to go up. Our country had many amazing leaders right from the beginning. George Washington was our first president. He was also a general who fought bravely for America's liberty in the Revolutionary War. We remember him with this big monument. I think it looks like a pencil. You want to hold the pencil? It's really enormous. It's really high. And I've only been up there once. Abraham Lincoln was the President of the United States during the Civil War. And he is known for freeing the slaves with his Emancipation Proclamation. This was an important step in creating justice and equality for all people. I hop up the steps to say hello, but I don't know if he can hear me all the way up there. And yes, of course, everyone that goes to Washington, D.C. visits the memorials, and this is one of the memorials. And yes, I've been there several times, and this is where people take pictures right below his statue, his monument. Okay. Equality means that all people are treated the same way. That was the hope of another great American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He made a lot of important speeches about equality while he was a pastor. One of the most famous is called, "I Have a Dream." Do you have any dreams for America? I do, and we should too. We should all do. And yes, I saw his memorial. All very nice memorials. Thousands of people come to Washington, D.C. every year to learn about our nation's history. And if they come in the springtime, like I have a couple of times, and if they come in the springtime, they can also see these pretty pink trees that go all the way around the tidal basin. And they are absolutely gorgeous. They're my favorite flower, the cherry blossoms. They were a gift from the people of Japan to the people of the United States in 1912. Across the water, we can spot the Jefferson Memorial with the round top honoring President Thomas Jefferson. That's another beautiful monument. Some places in Washington are a little sad, but they are still very important to visit. One of my favorites is the Vietnam War Memorial. When you walk down the ramp, you can read the names of all the soldiers who fought and died in that war. They are carved into the black marble stone, and people come from all over to find the names of their loved ones there. When I think of the Pledge of Allegiance, I think of the flag and all the important things the flag and the pledge stand for, like freedom, justice, and equality. But then I realized we don't get these things on our own. There are people who fight for us to be free every day, like the soldiers from World War II who raised our flag at Iwo Jima. Before we go home, there's one more place we need to go. At Arlington's National Cemetery, I see American flags placed at the headstones of each of the soldiers who have given their lives to protect our country and all the freedoms we enjoy. Today we learned about the rights and liberties we have as Americans. We also learn that it is okay to have different opinions. Even when we disagree, we are still indivisible, which means we will be one country no matter our differences. This is what makes America. So before we head home, there is one more thing to do. I bow my head and whisper a tiny thank you to these brave souls. It is because of them that we are able to live in a country that is free. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The end. And so now the section has information about the memorials, and I'm just going to read a few of them. Did you know? Did you know the National Cathedral, if you go outside the Vice President's residence, you will see the beautiful National Cathedral. It took 83 years to build and was finally completed in 1990. It is the 6th largest cathedral in the world. That's pretty big, and it's very, very beautiful indeed. The U.S. Capitol is where elected representatives in the House and the Senate vote. It is a key building for the legislative branch of government, which determines which bills and acts turn into law. The Supreme Court is the highest federal court of the United States and consists of 8 justices and 1 Chief Justice. A Supreme Court justice serves on the court for life or until he or she retires, resigns, or is removed. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world. It has over 167 million items and about 838 miles of bookshelves. The main reading room has 16,000 titles and about 56,000 volumes, all displayed on open shelves. And it is all beautiful and breathtaking. It's really beautiful. You could spend 3 days there. We were only there a few hours. National Archives. At the National Archives, you can see the United States Constitution on display. It is the document that defines our democracy, and the many articles within it state how our government is set up. It is so important that it has special glass case it stays in. The Constitution lists many of our rights and liberties, including freedom of religion, speech, and the press, rights of assembly and petition, and the right to bear arms. It's really incredible to see. It has the dim lights, like I said earlier when I read the story. The White House is where the President of the United States and the First Family live. It has 132 rooms, including a red room, blue room, and green room. Those are the ones that you tour when you visit the White House. Those are the ones we saw. The East Room is where Lincoln housed the troops. Dolly Madison hung up her laundry, and Amy Carter roller skated. Lots of performances happen there, and the president gives speeches in this room too. And so we're going to read one more. That will be the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is the world's largest stone structure and has 50 flags around it. About a third of the way up, you can see the bricks change colors. That's because construction of the monument was halted in 1854. 25 years later, the workers used different marble when they started again. So this is a great book to have. I hope you enjoy the book, A Nation's Capital, and Marlon Brando Bunjo is an adorable pet rabbit, and so he's the one that gave us the tour of the nation's capital. All right, so now I'm sipping delicious homemade limeade. So happy 4th of July. Bye-bye.